Hello, 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 hello to you all, and happy Friday, good afternoon. How are you all doing on this slightly gloomy day, but a bit muggy? How is it where you are? Weather has been very strange here. It's one day it's too hot to breathe and the next day it's very close, and yeah, terribly muggy. So how are you doing? Few people just joining. Hope you are well. Good to see you all. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to join. Thank you so much for coming along. How are we doing this week? How is your family? How's your business? How's your team? How is life in general? How are you managing to juggle all the different things that you've got going on? No doubt we all do. It's been a busy week for us. I wonder about how it's been for you. So this week I've been in Berlin for some meetings for my other business. So my husband and I run a property company, and he built a really clever algorithm that looks at live property yields. And so we met with a company who are interested in partnering with us, which was really exciting. And I also managed to take a bit of time between the calls and the meetings to explore the streets of Berlin. Really interesting city, lots and lots of history. So yeah, I've had an interesting week. What about you? How are you doing, and how are you managing to juggle your family, your business, your holiday? Are you taking time off? It's a really busy time. I know, and a lot of my clients are struggling with all of that juggling. So I hope that you are having a good week and having a good Friday. Last week I was talking about getting things out of your head and kind of getting organised, and I really hope that you'll be able to join us next Wednesday. We're going to dive into that topic in a lot more detail. So really about having a flexible, I call it a formula, to help us get organised, because each and every one of us are different. So what works for me might not work for you, and so I've devised a flexible formula that everybody can use, whether you like processes, whether you like systems, whether you're paper-based or IT-based. It is going to work for you. So if you haven't already registered for your place, there is still time to do so. So it'll be a Zoom event, and all the details are in the group. If you can't find them, then do ping me. This week it is all about sales and selling, which is a really interesting topic, and one that I'm sure a lot of people are interested to hear more about and learn more about. And for me, being able to connect with your potential customers and being able to sell your products and services is absolutely an essential skill for any business owner. But I know that a lot of people kind of shy away from that word, like, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I don't sell, I don't like to sell. And a lot of people tell me that they're not very good at selling. And often that's not true, but that we have an interesting relationship with that word sales. But the reality is that we're all, as business owners, we're all selling all the time. We're selling our brand, we're selling our products and services, we're selling our solutions, we're selling ourselves. You can't actually, the bottom line is you can't run a business without selling. And that's why it's such a fundamental skill for all business owners. And so I have a question for you. Do you meet people, potential customers, who you absolutely know would benefit from your solution, from your product or service, but they don't buy from you? I know that happens to a lot of people, and that's really what I want to help you with today. I really believe that selling is a skill, and it is something that anybody can learn. Yes, of course, it comes easier to some people than it does to others, but it really is possible for anybody to sell in their own way, in a way that works for them, in a kind of in a non-sleazy way, that typical stereotype, if you like, of that sleazy salesperson. That's not what selling needs to be about, and that is what I want to share a little bit with you today. Anybody can learn to sell in their own way and be a good salesperson. So here's a very simple truth. Nobody likes to be sold to. I think that's true. I mean, let me know if you disagree, but in my experience, most of us really hate being sold to. But you know what we love? We all love to buy. And that is a really fundamental truth. And I want you just to think about that, because it's very simple and it sounds very obvious, But it's switching 180 degrees what a lot of us get hung up about in terms of selling and the sales process. It's actually a very simple and powerful thing to remember, that whilst we all hate being sold to, which is why salespeople have such a bad reputation, we actually, most of us, all of us really, right, we love to buy. So what we need to do is invite people to buy. Rather than selling to them, we want to give them an opportunity to buy. And when you start thinking about it that way around, it's really very powerful. And I find that that kind of reframe, if you like, really helps people that have a problem with that word sales. Now, I don't know if you know, but I actually started my career in sales, and which is many years ago. And since I started my business, I've had to brush off those skills and adapt them for my current clients. So I used to be selling photocopiers and printers for a very large company called Xerox, and I used to be selling to schools, to universities, to local councils. And now what I'm selling, I'm really selling simplicity. Yes, I'm selling freedom and I'm selling success, but really what I'm selling is a clear head and simple frameworks to help you build a business that works for you. So I know that there are many, many people out there that are far more qualified than me to talk about sales, particularly from a kind of a words and messaging perspective, all the sexy stuff, the magic, the dreams. There are definitely people that are much better at all that, what I call shiny than me. So today, what I would like to share with you is a very simple but powerful process that I absolutely guarantee will change the way that you think about sales and selling. It's not very sexy, it's not very shiny, but it does absolutely work, and it will help you understand where you are in the process. Even if you're not a process person, you're still in a process with your potential customers. So this very simple process has 3 steps, or phases if you like. And what is really, really important, and if you take only one thing away from today's live, it is super important that you do not move on from step 1 to step 2 or from step 2 to step 3 until you are absolutely sure that you are in agreement with your potential customer about the step or the phase that you're currently in. So do not leave step 1 until you're absolutely sure that you're on the same page. Now, our sales process, or our buying process if you prefer, it can often take several conversations over a period of time, or maybe it might just take a few minutes, it might just take one call. And that, of course, depends on many different factors. It depends on the type of person you're speaking to, it depends on the type of organisation, it depends on the type of product or service, it might depend on the situation. And in some cases, of course, you might have to do it entirely without speaking to your customer. So maybe you're selling something online and you actually have no opportunity to speak directly to your customer, but you are still speaking to them by the message that you put out, by the words or the video or whatever it is, the way that you communicate with your customer. So even if you don't have the kind of business or product or service that you are actually having a direct conversation with your customer, you are still communicating. So this still absolutely works. You still have to walk through these 3 steps that I'm going to share with you with your customer. And it's even more important in that situation that you're super clear, because of course you're not getting that immediate feedback. The feedback you get in that case is that they just don't buy. Whereas at least when we're having a conversation, we have a chance to adjust or get that feedback and listen to our customer. Okay, so simple 3-step process to selling or buying if you prefer. So step 1 is all about agreeing with your potential customer what the problem is. Not the way that you see it, the way that they see it. What is the problem that they are experiencing, and also the urgency of that problem. So problem and urgency is step 1. So the reason this is really important, they need to know and they need to believe that you get the problem, that you understand it. Yeah, you get what they're struggling with. So this is when people talk about speaking their language, you really need to make sure that you understand what is the problem that your potential client is struggling with, and how are they struggling? What does it feel like to them to have that problem, to be where they are? People talk about walking in your customer's shoes. It really is about getting super clear about what they are experiencing. Now, if you are experienced at the type of problems that your customer has, it can be really tempting to make assumptions. It can be really tempting to assume that we know what the problem is that our customer is experiencing. And of course we can make suggestions, like this sometimes happens to people that I speak to, or, one of my clients is experiencing this. Is this what you're experiencing? But the point is you need to ask questions and not make assumptions. Of course, if you're selling something online, as I was speaking about before, you might be communicating via text or via video. And so you need to explain to the person that is watching that you understand the problem or the situation that they find themselves in. And what I need you to really take away from this is that until your potential customer believes that you understand their problem, this is not about whether or not you are actually good or you do actually understand. This is about what your potential customer believes. So until they believe that you understand where they are today and what they're experiencing, they won't be able to, or they certainly won't consider moving forward in the process. For them, it's a buying process, don't forget. And that is absolutely step one. And your prospect or your potential customer will stay at that point with you until they believe that you are on the same page, or they'll find somebody else that they believe is on the same page as them. So you need to also communicate and agree on the urgency of the problem. So how critical actually is the problem that your customer is experiencing, and how quickly does it need to be fixed? So I meet people all the time who are really frustrated that potential clients aren't buying. And that, if you think about it, is because the customer is not feeling the urgency. They're not feeling the pain. You might be able to see why they need the solution right now, why they need to act right now. But unless your potential customer sees it like you can see it, they won't buy from you. Let me be very clear, and here's another fundamental truth. We all buy for only two reasons, one of two reasons. We either are buying because we want to avoid pain, we want to run away from pain, or we want to move towards pleasure. They are the only two reasons why we buy anything. And research shows over and over again that most people, most of us, will avoid pain. It's a much stronger driver than moving towards pleasure. And so our jobs as business owners, when we're communicating with our potential customers, is really to help our customers understand what happens if they don't act now. So your job is to help your customer understand the potential implications of failing to act right now. So you, of course, need to share your experiences. You need to share examples of people who maybe have failed to act, and case studies of people who did act and what happened. So it's all about helping your customer really feel that pain and helping them believe that you really understand not only what that pain or that problem is, but also the urgency. And if they don't see the implications, then your job is to help them see those implications. Now, thinking about timescales, you might be thinking this year, they might be thinking, oh yeah, sometime in the next 5 years. So timescales are really important. It's really important for you to get on the same page. If you're in a two-way conversation, it is really important then that you summarize the problem and the urgency and the timelines, and that you make sure that you're in agreement. And you must do this before you move forward. And I see this all the time. You must agree on the problem between you and your customer, and you must agree on the urgency. And if they don't agree, as I say, if they're thinking sometimes in 5 years and nothing you say persuades them they need to act now, that is where they'll stay, and that has to be okay. Don't forget, it's their process. It's their buying process. It might be your selling process, but actually it's their buying process. So do not move on to step 2 until you are on the same page about step 1, which is all about the problem and the urgency. Okay, so step 2 then is all around your vision of the solution, and this one gets missed all the time. It's the one that most often gets missed in my experience. This is where you are talking about the outcome, the solution to the problem, not your solution, not your product or service, but the type of solution that you think is going to work best for your customer. So here we must really focus on outcomes, on benefits, not features, on benefits and outcomes. So we need to paint a picture of the future. The biggest mistake that I see here in this phase is people jump straight to describing their solution, and it's too soon. The customer is very, very unlikely to buy if you don't first paint a picture and agree on the outcomes, the desired outcomes that the customer wants. So what kind of product or service will give them the outcome that they want, and why? Why is that the right type of outcome? Do you think that a structured process where your customer is taken through step by step will work, or would they be better suited to a kind of a do-it-yourself, a DIY model where they move at their own pace and figure it out themselves? You need to focus on what they're trying to achieve, and you need to kind of get inside how they like to work. It might take several conversations to agree this, or you might even not, again, as I've said before, that you might not even be in a conversation. So again, you need to communicate this through your messaging, through your website, through your communication, through your social media. It's really important that you get on the same page about the outcome, because again, you might have a very clear view of what you think the outcome should be, what you think they should want. You know, I often talk about success looks very different to different people. So I can tell you, right, okay, so you want success, and you might be thinking about a completely different thing than what I'm thinking about. Some people want a small lifestyle business, other people want world domination. And so when we use terms, when our customer uses terms, we need to inquire, we need to find out what it is that they're talking about. What is the outcome? You need to paint a picture of what the future can be like, and you need to ask them for what they want. And only once you have agreed on what the outcome will be, what the outcome that they want, once you've got a really clear picture that you're in agreement about, only then can you move on to step 3, which is where most people want to rush to, and most people do this too soon. So of course, step 3 is, how do you do your thing? How do you solve their problem? What are the details of your method? How do you work? And how do you deliver the outcome that they want? What makes you special or different? And this is where you come in with case studies, examples of different clients that you've helped, your credentials, etc. And what happens is that most people do that too quickly. So they're trying to tell the potential customer how great they are and how great their system is and how great their product is and how many weeks it is or how many widgets it has, or, you know, all the details about the product. The customer doesn't care about that until we are on the same page about the problem, the urgency, and the type of solution, the outcome that they are looking for. So actually, my biggest advice to you is, don't give any details of your solution or how you work until the customer asks, because at a certain point in time, once you've agreed on the problem and the urgency, and once you've talked in general terms about the outcome, they will say to you, well, how do you do this? Is this the sort of problem that you solve? How would you go about solving that? And then you are in, because they've asked you, they've given you permission then effectively to sell to them. If you've done the first 2 steps right, then the sale is actually easy. You're actually giving your potential customer an opportunity to buy from you. Remember, we're in a buying process actually more than a selling process. And that's the magic of this, is you want it to feel like a buying process. You want to take your customer through their process of buying, which might be long, might be slow, might be convoluted, might be really, really quick. So once you get to step 3, assuming that you have done steps 1 and 2 correctly, and you have got agreement from your potential customer after each step before you move on, then there are actually only 2 reasons why the person won't say yes. You want to know what they are? Either they don't trust you, or they don't trust themselves. And this is when they'll talk about timelines, they'll talk about price, they'll try and deflect, they'll say, I need to think about it, I need to speak to the cat, dog, mother-in-law. If you get to that situation and you've done steps 1 and 2 correctly, they either are not trusting you or they're not trusting themselves. And your challenge is really to figure out which one it is and then help them overcome it. So if you are online and you're not having a two-way conversation, you need to think about all the reasons why somebody might not trust you, your product and service, or they might not trust themselves. Yeah, if you're in a conversation, you need to figure out which one it is pretty quickly. If they don't trust you, then they're worried effectively that you won't be able to deliver what you promise. So maybe they need a guarantee, maybe they need some more social proof, maybe they need some more evidence, maybe they need to speak to one of your clients, maybe they need to see some more case studies, maybe they want some data. They need some more proof, they need maybe something more tangible. Or they need more detail. You know, they don't believe what you're telling them. They don't believe that it's possible maybe in the timeline, or maybe it's not possible to get those results. So you kind of need to prove it to them. If they don't trust themselves, that's quite tricky, but I see that quite a lot. And effectively what that is people are worrying that they're making a bad decision. They're also worrying that they won't be able to implement. So they believe you and your solution, but they're worried about themselves and their own ability to implement if it's that kind of a solution, or they're worried that they won't be able to use the product or service correctly. They're basically doubting themselves and their own ability to follow through on whatever it is that you're selling them. They might be struggling with confidence in themselves. And so depending on your expertise and of course what you're selling and what area, what niche you're in, you may or may not be able to help them work through that then. But clearly giving them examples and proof can also clearly help at this point in time. So they are my simple 3 steps to effective selling. Step 1, get really clear with your customer about the problem and the urgency and timelines. And again, this is their view of the world, this is their process. Step 2, give them vision, paint a picture of the outcome and agree what the outcome needs to look like. What is the solution they are envisaging? What is the outcome that they want? And only number 3, step 3, is then how do you deliver through that solution? What is your method? What is your solution, if you like? How will you work with them to achieve that outcome that you have defined in step 2? The most important skill in selling is asking great questions and listening. One of the reasons that salespeople get such a bad rap is that they talk too much. And certainly I got that feedback very early on in my career. It's really important. What do they say? You've got 1 mouth and 2 ears. It's so important to listen. You will learn so much more by listening than you will by the sound of your own voice. So make sure that you are, I've heard it said that it's good to think about a 30-70% ratio. So you are only speaking 30% of the time and your potential customer is speaking 70% of the time. So make sure you are asking lots of lovely open questions to elicit the information from your customer, if you are in a 2-way conversation with them, of course. So let me know what you think about my simple 3-step process. Is there one that you do better than the other? Is there one that you're missing? As I say, step 2 I find often gets missed. Is there one that you need a bit more help with, that you need a bit more detail on, that you need maybe some practice on? How do you feel about that 3-step process? Does that work? Does that resonate with you in terms of the products and services, the market that you're in? So do let me know. I am going to close today's live with 2 quotes about sales and selling. So the first one is from Brian Tracy, who is a Canadian-American author and speaker. And he says, his advice, if you like, is approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or service. Couldn't agree more. And the second is from Zig Ziglar, who is another American author and speaker. And what he has to say is something very interesting. If people like you, then they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, then they'll do business with you. And one of the best ways to help people to trust you is to ask questions and to really listen, and not to try and push them to your agenda. This is their process, not your process. It will take as long as your potential customer needs it to take. Now, yes, you can help them speed that up by giving them information and educating them as to the implications of not moving, but they will move at their own speed. And if you're not fine with that, then you're going to miss a lot of sales. So do let me know your thoughts or questions on this or any other topic relating to how to grow a business that works for you. Let me know what area of business you would like me to speak about next. I do hope very much that you can join us next Wednesday, the 26th of August, for our community event where we'll be digging into how to get all those things out of your head, how to stay organised and clear your head so that you can really focus on what you want to be putting your energy and creativity in. I hope that you'll be able to join us for that event. If you haven't registered already, the Zoom registration link is in the event in the group. So I hope to see you next Wednesday. But in the meantime, I really hope that you have a lovely weekend, and whatever you're doing and whoever you're doing it with, I really hope that you have a happy and peaceful time. And as always, if you'd like to talk, please reach out. You know where I am. Take care, stay safe, and do keep in touch. Bye for now.